Happy Monday, everyone. For today, we're actually going to build off of Friday's work. So if you haven't completed the assignment that was either due Thursday or Friday, depending on which day you are remote, then you should definitely do that first. That'll make this make a lot more sense. So with that said, basically, we're going to look at a more complicated version of what you saw on Friday. So the very last problem basically said, oh, how could you make this easier? Turns out if you can simplify a side, it's a heck of a lot easier to find a solution than if I just try to guess and check with something like this. So remember, our goal, if my pen would work, is to figure out what number that would be the same for both of these boxes makes this equation true. Well, if there's more than one box here, that gets a little bit complicated. And so instead of doing this, I can go back to my original and I'm just going to simplify it. So I'm going to do my 4 times 5x, which is 20x. I'm going to do my 4 times negative 6, which is negative 24. And then I have this minus 12x still hanging on the end. That equals 32. So what I want you to think about is our equal sign is like a barrier. You can simplify anything that's on the same side of the barrier, but you cannot simplify across the barrier. So this 32 is just going to stay there because it can't be simplified with anything over here. And then I'm just going to finish simplifying. So in case you need the extra visual of grouping terms, I'm just saying, what is 20x minus 12x? Well, that turns out to be 8x minus 24 equals 32. So now the question is, what goes in this box here? Or what goes in for x? So in other words, 8 times something minus 24 equals 32. Well, when I'm thinking about this one, I'm going to say, whatever this number ends up being, when I subtract 24 from it, I should get 32. So what number sounds like? I think the number minus 24, that gets me 32, would be 56. And so whatever this number here is, it needs to be 56. So 8 times something is 56. Turns out that 7 is that number. So my solution, the number I use for x, has to be 7. That's my final answer. But sometimes I make errors when I'm simplifying. So the only way I can verify that this is actually true is to go back to the original. So let's take this and let's see if it actually works. So if I throw in a 7 into my boxes and then I follow order of operations, hopefully I get 32. If I don't, then I've made a mistake somewhere. If I do, then I know I'm good to go. So inside parentheses, I'm going to start there. 5 times 7, that's 35, minus 6. And then I have this negative 12 times 7, which is going to be minus 84. This will be 29. Remember, I've got multiplication there happening, in case you've forgotten. All right, 4 times 29. It's going to be 116. And 116 minus 84 does, in fact, equal 32. So I know I'm good. So once again, I'm trying to figure out the solution that makes this true, but it's pretty difficult when I have 2 x's happening and multiple operations like 4 times whatever's in parentheses. So all I did was take this and I simplified it, simplified till I got something that was a lot easier to test. And then I said, what has to go in for x? Well, in this case, it has to be 7 because 56 minus 24 is 32. All right. That's one of the more basic ones. Let's look at a slightly more complicated one. Here, I'm going to do the same exact thing. I'm going to say, let's simplify. So once again, my goal is to figure out what number has to go in for x to make this true. But if you notice, there's a whole bunch of x's. And even more importantly, there's x's on both sides of my equation this time. So remember, once again, that my equal sign is like a barrier. I can't simplify across it. So let's look at this one. So if I simplify this side, got 2 times 3x is 6x. Got 2 times -4 is -8 equals, I'm going to draw in my barrier just to remind myself. So this side is now simplified. Here, if I look at my terms, I'm just going to regroup. I'm going to say, well, my like terms here are 4x and 8x. So if I simplify that, I'm going to have 12x plus 10. All right. This side is as simplified as it's going to get. This side's also as simplified as it's going to get, because I can't simplify across the equal sign. They're separated by my barrier. All right. So now the question is, what has to go in for x? And remember, it has to be the same number on both sides. So this is where it gets tricky. Really, I just have to kind of experiment. So I'm going to grab a sticky note here and just play around. So I like to start simple and then see if I'm close. So let's try, let's say maybe we try 1. All right, so this would be 6 minus 8, which would be -2. This would be 12 plus 10, that's 22. Those are pretty far apart, so 1 probably isn't that close. So let me try 2, just to be sure. All right, this would be 12 minus 8 would be 4. This would be 34. It looks like they're getting even further apart for answers, so that probably tells me I'm going in the wrong direction. But they're still really far apart in both cases, so I'm going to go in the negative direction, but I'm going to try a little bit further. I'm going to say, instead of like -1 or -2, let's jump. Let's go to -3. Remember, I'm just experimenting here, so I just knew that 1 was the answers were far apart, 2 they were even further apart, so now I'm going in the negative direction to see if I can get closer. So 6 times -3 is -18, minus 8 more would be -26. 12 times -3 would be -36, plus 10 would be, oh, also -26. Cool. So it turns out that -3 is going to be my solution here. So all I've decided is that -3 is my solution. And one more time, the way I got that was by experimenting with a bunch of values until I got there. So the way I like to teach math is basically for you to kind of feel the pain of the long way of doing things to then justify the more efficient way. So what we're doing is we're understanding what a solution is. Tomorrow we're going to look at some more formal techniques that make this a lot faster than having to guess and check. But I have one more step. I'm going to check the original one more time. So now in my box, I know I have -3 or -3. So let's make that happen here. All right, got all my boxes now, just order of operations. So I'm going to do inside my parentheses here. So 3 times -3 would be -9 minus 4. 4 times -3 on this side is going to be -12 plus 10. 8 times -3 is going to be -24. Remember, I've got my barrier here, so I can't do anything across it, but I can keep simplifying on this side. -9 minus 4 would be -13. -12 plus 10 would be -2. Minus 24 would be -26. And does 2 times -13 equal -26? It does. So there I go. I know both sides are the same, and so -3 must be my solution. All right. So I know this is a kind of tough idea to start. So, do your best with it. We'll talk more formal techniques tomorrow. As always, if you have questions, reach out. Otherwise, good luck.